You know what gets most men in trouble? They confuse action with progress. They think swinging first, talking louder, pushing harder means they're winning. But that's not how the real game works. This is about strategy, not motivation, not hustle, not being the loudest guy in the room. It's about knowing the game so well, you can win it without even playing the parts everyone else thinks matter. I've seen it too many times. A guy jumps at the first opportunity like it's his only shot. He fights every fight like it's the last one. And then he burns out, loses the war before he even understands what it's about. Strategy is different. Strategy is the ability to look at the board and not move until the move is yours. It's the discipline to let small wins pass by because you're hunting something bigger. It's resisting the urge to prove yourself just to feel important. The truth? Most men lose because they can't stand the silence. They have to react. They have to respond. They have to show they're not afraid. But fear isn't the problem. Ego is. When you stop playing for the moment and start playing for the outcome, everything changes. You start noticing patterns. You start seeing who's impulsive, who's insecure, who talks too much, who needs to be seen. Every word, every habit, every little reaction, those are cracks in their armor. And if you're paying attention, you don't just win against them, you dismantle them. I've learned this the hard way, walking away from money, deals, even people, not because I couldn't win them, but because winning them wasn't the point. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is lose a battle on purpose because you know it opens the door to winning the war. Weak men think they have to take every shot. Smart men, they let opportunities pass if they're not the right ones. They're patient. They wait for the moment when everything lines up. Timing, leverage, position, and then they move like a ghost. Quick, silent, final. That's what strategy really is. It's knowing you don't have to prove yourself today because you're building something for tomorrow. It's refusing to be pulled into fights that don't matter. It's letting other people show you their weaknesses before you decide how to use them. You want power? Stop thinking like a fighter and start thinking like a strategist. Stop trying to win the moment and start aiming to own the board. And here's the thing, you can start right now, today. You don't have to change your life overnight, you just have to change the way you see it. So here's my challenge to you. Say less than you want to. Listen more than you think you need to. Write down what you notice. Let one opportunity pass you by, on purpose, and see what that does to your position. If you can do that, you'll already be ahead of 90% of the people you deal with. Because from that moment on, you're not just reacting, you're playing. You're thinking 2, 3, 5 moves ahead. And that's when you stop being just another man and start becoming a tactician. If that makes sense to you, my name is Dexter. I created this place for people who feel a lot, but don't talk too much. Subscribe, hit the bell, and now, let's talk. Do you agree with that? Or does it sound completely wrong to you? You walk into a room, and you can tell right away who's paying attention and who's just filling space. The air feels different when there's something at stake. There's always that one guy who can't keep still, tapping the table, bouncing his leg. He thinks nobody notices. Another one leans back too far in his chair, trying to look relaxed, but his eyes keep moving. Then you've got the loud talker. He's running his mouth, telling stories no one asked for. And in the corner, there's the quiet one, barely moving, not saying a word. That's the one you need to watch. Strategy lives in those rooms. It's not about the big moves. It's about the small ones nobody else cares to see. The way someone answers a question after a long pause. The shift in their tone when you touch a subject they're not comfortable with. The way their confidence changes when certain names or numbers come up. I've been in meetings where nothing official happened. No contracts, no deals, but the entire balance of power shifted in 20 minutes. One guy left, thinking he was ahead. Another walked out with no idea he'd just lost ground. People are terrible at hiding who they are. They think they're being subtle, but you can read them if you're patient. The guy who laughs too quickly, the one who cuts people off, the one who avoids looking at you when he talks about certain things. Patience isn't just sitting there. It's paying attention to every detail so you can use it later. It's watching how someone reacts under pressure, how they handle silence, how they fill it when it gets uncomfortable. I remember sitting across from a guy who thought he was running the show. He talked first, talked fast, tried to cover every angle before I could speak. I let him. By the time he was done, I knew his priorities, his weak spots, and what would make him fold. When I finally spoke, it took me 2 sentences to flip the deal. That's strategy. You don't need to tell anyone you're doing it. You don't need to show your cards. You wait, you collect. And when the timing's right, you make one move that changes everything. The world will push you to react fast, but the man who can sit in the middle of all that noise, keep his mouth shut, and watch, he's the one who ends up in control. Men didn't always operate like this. There was a time when you could sit at a table with older men and nobody said a word for the first 10 minutes. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they didn't feel the need to fill the silence. They were reading the room, measuring each other, deciding if the conversation was even worth having. Today, it's the opposite. You walk into a meeting and everyone's already talking over each other before they've even shaken hands. Everyone wants to prove they belong before they understand what's actually happening. It's noise, and noise kills strategy. Back then, respect came from what you didn't do. You didn't brag. You didn't rush. You didn't show your emotions to people who could use them against you. If you were angry, you handled it in private. If you were worried, no one saw it on your face. That's how you kept control. Now, men wear every thought on their sleeve. They post it online. They broadcast their wins before they've even secured them. They fight battles in public just to get validation from people who don't even matter. And then they wonder why they're losing to people who never seem to break a sweat. The old way wasn't perfect, but it had one advantage. You knew where the power was. It was in the man who could take an insult and smile. It was in the man who could sit through a heated argument and not say a single word until everyone else had burned themselves out. That's the guy who left the room with what he came for. Today, if you act like that, people think you're cold or detached. Good. Let them think that, because the more they underestimate you, the easier it is to move when it counts. The difference between then and now is patience. Men used to think in years. Now they think in hours. Everything has to be quick, visible, and loud. But the big wins still belong to the ones who can wait. Look at any great negotiation, any lasting deal. It's never about who talks the most. It's about who can let the other guy feel comfortable enough to expose himself. It's about leaving space for mistakes to happen, because they always do. And when they do, you don't need to crush them right away. Sometimes you let it sit. Let them keep walking into it until they can't get out. That's why I respect the old way more. It was about control, of yourself first, and then of the situation. You didn't chase every opportunity. You didn't jump at every fight. You played the long game, even if nobody else realized you were playing at all. If you bring that mindset into today's world, you'll feel out of place. Everyone else is sprinting and you're walking. But when the dust settles, they'll be out of breath. and you'll still be moving. You're in a meeting. Two guys are arguing over details that won't matter in a month. One's red in the face, the other's pounding the table. You sit back, sip your coffee, and keep your mouth shut. They're both so busy trying to win the moment that they don't see they're losing ground. When they finally turn to you, you've got the answer they didn't expect. Clear, simple, final. The room shifts. That's strategy. You're in a family gathering. Your brother-in-law starts a debate about something he knows will get you fired up. Instead of taking the bait, you just nod. Let him talk and change the subject when you feel like it. An hour later, he looks frustrated and you haven't wasted a single ounce of energy. That's strategy. You're in traffic. Someone cuts you off. Most guys lean on the horn, shout, maybe speed up to prove a point. You just let them go. You know you'll catch every red light they hit without doing a thing. That's strategy. You're negotiating a deal. The other guy throws out a number that's way off. Instead of pushing back right away, you pause, make a small joke, and keep talking about something else. 5 minutes later, he lowers it himself, just to see if you'll bite. You still don't. By the end of the meeting, he's talking closer to your range and thinks it was his idea. That's strategy. You're at the gym. Some guy's trying to show off, loading more weight than he can handle. You don't match him rep for rep. You stick to your plan. 2 weeks later, he's out with an injury, and you're still making steady gains. That's strategy. You're dating. Someone's interested but playing games. Slow replies, hot and cold behavior. You don't chase. You don't double text. You let them show you exactly where they stand. If they come back, you decide if they're worth your time. If they don't, you saved yourself months of drama. That's strategy. At work, someone tries to take credit for your idea. You don't confront them in front of everyone. You let it go in the moment. Later, when the right person's listening, you drop the fact in a calm, casual way. No scene, no drama. Just a quiet correction that puts the truth where it belongs. That's strategy. You're in a group chat. Someone sends a message that's obviously fishing for an argument. Everyone else jumps in. You don't. You watch the thread go on for hours. By the time you say anything, you've got the last word and the cleanest one. That's strategy. You're playing cards. You fold a hand you could have fought for, not because you couldn't win, but because you want them to think you're being careful. A few hands later, they underestimate you and walk right into a loss. That's strategy. The pattern's always the same. Wait, watch, move when it matters. Let other people reveal their weaknesses while you protect your own. Play for the bigger picture, not the moment. Here's the ugly truth most men don't want to face. You're not losing because the world's against you. You're losing because you're walking into fights you don't need to fight, and you're walking in unprepared. You keep reacting. Someone insults you. You fire back. Someone challenges you. You rush to prove them wrong. Someone offers you something. You take it before asking yourself why they're offering in the first place. That's not strategy. That's impulse. I've seen guys burn entire careers because they couldn't keep their mouth shut for 5 minutes. I've watched men destroy relationships because they had to win one argument. I've seen people lose money they could have kept just because they couldn't walk away from a bad deal. It's not about being weak. It's about being in control. You think saying no or walking away makes you look soft? It makes you look dangerous because you're not playing their game. Most men don't get this until they're in the middle of losing something that actually matters. And by then, it's too late. You don't realize you've been playing checkers until you're staring at a chessboard with half your pieces gone. I learned a long time ago, if you're emotional, you're predictable. If you're predictable, you're beatable. The guy who controls himself controls the situation. always. You think patience is passive? No. Patience is a weapon. It's the thing that makes other men second-guess themselves while you're standing still. You ever watch someone panic because you didn't react? It's like they can't handle the idea that you might know something they don't. And that's exactly where you want them. Sometimes winning means letting the other person believe they're winning for a while. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've figured you out. Let them take the small victories that don't matter, because when it's time to take the one that does, they won't see it coming. But here's the cost. You have to kill your ego. You have to stop caring about how it looks in the moment. You have to stop chasing the quick win just to feel good. If you need people to see you winning in real time, you'll never win in the long run. The hardest part? You're going to have to lose on purpose sometimes. Walk away from money you could have taken. Let someone else take credit for something minor. Let the loud guy have his little victory. Because you're not playing for today, you're setting the board for tomorrow. And this is where most men fail. They can't separate their pride from their position. They think every fight is the fight. They think every deal is the deal. That's why they're always scrambling, always reacting, always a step behind. If you can master this, if you can watch, wait, and move when it matters, you'll start winning before the other guy even knows the game started. You'll walk into a room already holding the outcome in your pocket. You'll control conversations without raising your voice. You'll take things without having to ask for them. And here's the part you need to hear. Nobody will applaud you for it. Nobody will post about it. Nobody will even know. And that's the point. Strategy isn't about getting credit. It's about getting results. It's about leaving the room with what you came for, even if everyone thinks nothing happened. It's about building a life where every move you make has a reason, and nothing you do is by accident. So here's your choice. Keep reacting, keep chasing quick wins, keep playing for the moment, and keep losing the game you don't even realize you're in. Or shut up, watch, learn, move when it matters. If you do that, you won't just start winning. You'll start owning the board. Ever notice how quiet feels different after a hard truth? It's not the same silence you get when nothing's happening. It's heavier. You start replaying moments in your head. Times you could have waited, but didn't. Times you reacted and paid for it. Times you thought you were winning, but you were really just burning yourself out. That's the thing about strategy. It doesn't make you feel good in the moment. It's not designed to. It's supposed to keep you in control, not comfortable. Most guys think control is about dominating every interaction. It's not. Control is knowing you can change the outcome and choosing when to do it. Sometimes that means doing nothing at all. And that's a move most men can't handle. If you've been paying attention, you've probably already thought of a few situations in your own life where you gave away the advantage. Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was with your family. Maybe it was with someone you trusted. You had a chance to stay quiet, to watch, to learn, but you didn't. And it cost you. The good news is, you don't need to get every move right. You just need to start making fewer wrong ones. You don't have to play the perfect game. Just stop playing the other guys. And yeah, you'll slip. You'll react too fast sometimes. You'll say something you shouldn't. But if you catch yourself once, twice, 3 times, the habit starts to change. You start noticing the gap between what happens and what you do next. That's where the game is won. Think about the people in your life right now. Which ones rush? Which ones hesitate? Which ones can't stop talking? Which ones go quiet when they're thinking? If you pay attention long enough, you'll start seeing patterns you've been blind to for years. And when you see the patterns, you can decide what to do with them. Sometimes you'll move. Sometimes you'll hold back. Sometimes you'll just watch and file it away for later. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about having the discipline to choose your battles and win them on your terms. Because the truth is, nobody's keeping score but you. Nobody knows the moves you didn't make. Nobody sees the fights you avoided. But those are the things that keep you in the game when everyone else is burning out. So let it sink in. The next time you're in a conversation or a negotiation, or even just sitting across from someone you don't fully trust, remember that you don't owe them speed. You don't owe them a reaction. You don't owe them a show. You owe yourself the outcome. One day, you're going to look back and realize most of the things you thought were wins didn't matter. The arguments you had to win, the times you had to prove you were right, the moments you couldn't walk away from, none of them built anything that lasted. What lasts are the moves you made when it counted. The ones nobody saw coming. The ones that looked small at the time, but changed everything later. The ones where you stayed quiet, waited, and hit when it mattered. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't even have to be the smartest. You just have to be the one still standing when everyone else has burned through themselves. And that starts now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. The next conversation you have. The next offer someone puts on the table. The next time you feel that pull to react right away. Ask yourself, does this move me closer to owning the board, or am I just feeding my ego? If you can answer that honestly, you'll make the right move more often than not. And when you get it wrong, you'll see it faster, fix it quicker, and move on without losing the bigger game. This isn't about winning once. It's about winning always. It's about making sure that by the time they realize they're in a game, you've already finished it. So keep your mouth shut when it's smart. Speak when it matters. And never, ever let someone else decide your next move for you. If that makes sense to you, my name is Dexter. I created this place for people who feel a lot, but don't talk too much. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video that's about to show up on your screen. Trust me, you'll want to watch that one.